What it is. It's your boy Learn, and we are back again, family. Hit that subscribe if you already haven't. Like the video early because I already know you're gonna like it because we family. And hype me up. Look, y'all, let's get into it. That OnlyFans, taking people out left and right. Well, the young women that fall for the trap, at least, right? We're going to dive into some content, a couple of clips, see exactly what the OnlyFans is doing to people. Why it has our young community in a chokehold. The older community too, right? You see the older models, the older video vixens, or the older actresses. You see everyone jumping on, trying to see if they can get their coin off of OnlyFans. So I guess it's only right, but we're going to see exactly the damage.
Dominated by how much some top earners are making on it. But what hasn't really been discussed is how the company has lost billions of dollars in valuation in a very short amount of time. And things just got even more messy because is now in a very bad situation after the CEO passed away. So essentially, you have one of the biggest platforms in the world, especially when it comes to that profitability per employee metric that you've probably seen online. And they just lost the one person running it, and almost nobody knew who he really was and that he existed. So the dude never gave interviews. There's really no real footage of him online. And one of the only pictures of him online was the one from his LinkedIn that had no ties to the platform whatsoever. So that's a little bit interesting. But for years, he was quietly making billions running one of the most controversial platforms on the internet. But then in just the last month, he passed away.
Yes, the OnlyFans CEO Leo Radvinsky, I think is how you pronounce it, the Ukraine-American billionaire, rose to prominence in 2009. Says he died of cancer on March 23rd, it says here. Yeah, definitely want to say apology or shout out to his family. Losing a loved one is not ever an easy thing, but says that it was after they announced it on OnlyFans. It says deeply saddened to announce the death of. So yeah, it was announced on OnlyFans, man. So yeah, everything kind of broke loose once he passed away. Everything got a little different there. So yeah, let's check out some more. Yes, more. Let's check out some more clips and keep doing this deep dive to figure out what was really going on with these OnlyFans models here. Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
Up to speed here. OF was created in 2016 by a guy named Tim Stokely. He was the youngest kid in a family from Essex, England. And he spent years trying to launch internet business after internet business and had a whole lot of failures. And the guy burned through a whole bunch of his own money and goodwill from friends and family, to put it lightly. But his dad, Guy, real name by the way, he watched multiple projects go essentially nowhere and had funded more than a few of them. So when Tim came back with yet another idea, he went, okay, here's £10,000 and that's the last one I'm funding. Little did he know though, that money became the seed funds. And the original structure was simple. Creators set a monthly price, subscribers paid it, and the platform keeps 20%. And I guess the creator walks away with 80%. Tim's original pitch wasn't necessarily focused on adult content, but the idea had been open to anyone who could build a paying audience, including adult creators since 2017. And from the start, it was a family operation in the early days, with Tim's brother, Tom, running the operations and their father, Guy, handling the finances. Up to speed here. That one group, I guess they figured out the model faster than anyone else. And that showed up in some serious numbers because in 2018, the platform was getting traction, but running headfirst into some structural problems. The payment processors that made it possible to, actually collect the money from the subscribers weren't a big fan of the adult side of their business. And obviously, no payment processing means no business, full stop. So Tim sold it. And the buyer was someone that almost nobody had heard of, and nobody would really hear of him for many years to come. His name was Leonid Ravinsky, who was born in Odessa, Ukraine in 1982. His family relocated to Chicago while he was still a kid, and he studied economics at Northwestern University and graduated in 2002. And from that point forward, he essentially built an entire career at, scaling internet companies while keeping his name almost completely out of circulation. And even after he became the owner of one of the most talked about platforms on the planet, a single photo of him made the rounds, the same one over and over, which was attached to a LinkedIn profile that described him as the president at Leo.com and, completely left OF out of the picture.
But we understand the OnlyFans trap because they promote to women, hey, if you're a school teacher, if you work a private job that will fire you if they find out you're doing that content, hey, you should still come on the platform and make this $8.56. You should let somebody subscribe to you for $13. You should let someone, because you got to think, there are high schoolers that's going to get this content. There are mothers, there are aunties throwing themselves out there on the internet, thinking they're going to be the next millionaire, not understanding how much work it takes, because you instantly become like a content creator, right? At the end of the day, that's basically what you are. You're a content creator. You're out here making content for people, and you have to keep producing. And most of them don't understand that grind and can't keep up with the workload. So therefore, call it the OnlyFans trap is what I call it, right? Trapping girls worldwide all the time, every time. Just, I don't know, scooping them up. Just, I don't understand. Like, they're not
with the actual capital to do a deal at this scale. They operate under something called vice clauses, which are restrictions embedded in their agreements with their own backers that prevent them from putting money into certain categories. Because often, these firms don't only use their own money. They have liquidity providers or people who invest money into them, and they operate as a hedge fund, and then they deploy other people's money with the end goal of, beating the S&P 500 in an annual return. And a lot of people just don't want their funds to go into, investing in these vice businesses, which considers adult content, tobacco, gambling, and weapons. So regardless of the numbers, a lot of the most obvious buyers are essentially blocked from even writing the check. Then you have the operational risks, which are, Visa and MasterCard. They've already shown that they could, threaten to cut off payment processing for adult platforms. And this is exactly what pushed OF towards its failed 2021 ban. And since the platform is almost entirely reliant on subscription revenue, it has to go through payment processors that take somewhere between 5 to 10% in fees on top of the 2 to 3% fees from the most regular, Visa and Master, which is far above the usual 2 to 3% that most regular businesses are charged from payment processors. So obviously that is a tax on their margins, and now they're dependent to payment processors. And not only that, but there's also a
So now OnlyFans is basically unpurchasable. I don't think I said that word right, but it's unbuyable. You can't, anybody that has the means that would like to buy OnlyFans, he just explained to you the type of problems they would occur, right? And I think that is something that needs to be brought to the fore table, because how do you capitalize on such a platform, right? The way that the past owner did. I don't think anyone's given a discount now that they know the type of money that could, or type of revenue that could be made from such a platform. But again, you have a lot of pitfalls in that, right? You're going to grab that company, you're going to take that and run it up higher than it's already been. You're going to make it better than it already is. What are you going to turn it to? The hub? You're going to turn it to XVids? Like, what is the goal? Right? Because it wasn't at the beginning of the platform. It wasn't to be that way. It kind of just...
When he was presented with the chance to buy, he did so in 2018 for $30 million. And it's safe to say that was a phenomenal investment for him, because in 2019, the platform processed around $300 million in total payments and cleared around $7 million in profit. Then a year later, that gross payment volume hit $2.2 billion. Then by 2021, it was approaching $5 billion. And none of these numbers were being announced, but the company files with the UK as required. But Leonid had no interest in turning any of these numbers into some massive press release like many other entrepreneurs would. But then came that moment that probably told you more about OF than anything else, because In August of 2021, the platform announced that it was going to ban explicit content. Now, that was confusing to a lot of people because that kind of sounds like if Burger King announced it was going to stop selling burgers. So why would they ever do that? Well, it makes sense a little bit later on when you get the full picture. But obviously, the response from the creators on their platform was immediate and very clear. So 6 days later, the ban was reversed, and I guess that just showed the creators that they're the product. They actually have the power here of this platform because they've genuinely been trying to build a safe for work community on the platform, including chefs, athletes, musicians, comedians, and fitness coaches. And they also launched their own safe for work streaming service called OFTV back in 2021. And they've actively been trying to pursue other partnerships since. But I don't really think any of it really took off. Though that is, again, still such a tiny portion of what actually is. Then you have, the real competitors here, YouTube, Spotify, and Patreon. They don't allow any 18 plus content. And I don't see a world where OF is actually able to compete with any of these platforms in the safer work space because, the stigma that comes with the name. It's just like, I don't know. I just can't see most creators being very inclined to be like, hey guys, follow my unless they're paid like a massive bag. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. But that problem will be something the new owner will have to inherit. And another step that they might need to do is acquire a banking license, because even if they acquire OF, what happens if the payment processors shut them off? That would be really bad. So a potential solution for that would be if the platform could become its own financial institution. I mean, in theory, it could. That would definitely be a massive uphill battle for them though. But that would at least help them reduce the 5 to 10% fee burden. Currently, the valuation on the table is $3.5 billion, with Architect taking 60% of the equity in the deal. So in just a few years, it's essentially lost $4.5 billion in valuation because no one wants to buy it. And the Wall Street Journal had originally reported a total deal value, including debt, at $5.5 billion compared to an earlier $8 billion valuation just 1 year before, with slower growth and tougher sale process dragging the number.
That's making you say, what the heck is going on? Like, is it like, you're making a salary at the orthopedic job, and then all of a sudden you double.
So I was making like $3,500 a month at the orthopedic job, right?
Okay.
A month. My first month on OnlyFans, I made 87 grand.
Oh my!
I was like, quit.
Are you serious?
It blew my mind.
We're not promoting this, people.
Not at all.
There's trauma that comes with this. Okay,
way more than you can handle.
So, and this is like how does this just goes into your account? Yes,
OnlyFans takes a percentage.
Okay.
And then other people you work with take a percentage off of it, because you can't do it by yourself. After you have like 100,000 subscribers, you're not messaging them anymore.
Wow.
You got people messaging them for you.
So now your brain's just thinking, how can I make more? If I made this much,
that's it.
How can I make more?
That every month was like, how can I top last month? That was my brain. Like, I fed off of that thought.
And your conscience at the time is not like bothered at all?
I'd say it really started getting bothered when my family found out. And
how did they find out?
So my dad said that someone at his work told him. He didn't believe them. And then he called me and I was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, I'm doing this. My mom found out because she Googled the name Nala and then was like, it was so crazy. I was at dinner with them and
like that.
Sure. So the UK communications regulator, they hit with a £1.4 million fine in early 2025 for a weak age verification practice, which, might not be the biggest deal for them financially, but it's a pretty clear sign of where this enforcement is going. And then you have that exit problem, because even if someone bought it, how do they eventually sell it? Like, taking it public through a stock market listing, that's essentially impossible under the current conditions. And there's also no obvious second buyer standing by, and the insane financials don't resolve the fact that this is an asset most people in finance don't really want to be publicly associated with. And I mean, if I was to guess, that might be one of the reasons why they tried to stop allowing adult content on their platform back in, 2021, plus the whole payment processors problem. So the asking price of the platform started at about $8 billion, and no one was interested, despite their insanely high valuation. But the firm that eventually emerged as, I guess, the most serious buyer was Architect Capital, a San Francisco-based investment fund that got its start in 2020, providing credit to Latin American startups. And they had more recently become known for its tendency towards complicated situations, because its founder, James Sagan, was one of the larger investors in Juul, a, vaping and nicotine product that you guys are probably familiar with at this point. Genuinely been trying to build a safe for work community on the platform, including chefs, athletes, musicians, comedians, and fitness coaches. And they also launched their own safe for work streaming service called OFTV back in 2021. And they've actively been trying to pursue other partnerships since. But I don't really think any of it really took off, though that is, again, still such a tiny portion of what actually is. Then you have, the real competitors here, YouTube, Spotify, and Patreon. They don't allow any 18 plus content. And I don't see a world where OF is actually able to compete with any of these platforms in the safer work space because, the stigma that comes with the name. It's just like, I don't know. I just can't see most creators being very inclined to be like, hey guys, follow my unless they're paid like a massive bag. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. But that problem will be something the new owner will have to inherit. And another step that they might need to do is acquire a banking license, because even if they acquire OF, what happens if the payment processors shut them off? That would be really bad. So a potential solution for that would be if the platform could become its own financial institution. I mean, in theory, it could. That would definitely be a massive uphill battle for them, though. But that would at least help them reduce the 5 to 10% fee burden. Currently, the valuation on the table is $3.5 billion, with Architect taking 60% of the equity in the deal. So in just a few years, this has essentially lost $4.5 billion in valuation because no one wants to buy it. And the Wall Street Journal had originally reported a total deal value, including debt, at $5.5 billion compared to an earlier $8 billion valuation just 1 year before, with slower growth and tougher sale process dragging the number.
What happened is I got a teenage son and they're fucking obsessed with me. They fucking sing my songs in his school. They talk about like how hot of a mom I am. And my son's friends started finding my OnlyFans. So now it's hard for me to promote, and because now my son's going to school like getting teased and shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's hard having a teenage son. And
I was a stripper. I did OnlyFans. I live in my truth. And I am ashamed at the behavior I've done, because I am now 28 years old. I'm actually 28 years young on this earth. And I can say that I'm ashamed. Because of a lot of different reasons. I can sit here and I can talk to women and explain to younger girls coming up and things. I thought it was cool. I thought this is what I wanted to do. I thought this is how I wanted to live. But all these females that you guys look up to in the industry, that the media pushes you, they're all miserable. They have no peace. They cry every night. They are not happy with themselves. They hate themselves. So much so, they get surgeries and they try to fit themselves to being something they're not, and they're never gonna fulfill it because
no matter what they do, they will be bothered in their insides. That's how she tells it. All right, guys, that has been your content. I have been your host. Like, comment, subscribe. Why? Because we family. Hey, guys, let me know if this video was the dub or the izzle. And I'm gonna catch you guys next time, and we, start a conversation down below in the comments. Let me know if OnlyFans has trapped any of your family members, or you personally has went through OnlyFans. What has it done to you? Drop it down below. Let me know, because I would love to hear from you. Right? Let me know if I should do more of this type of content too. Right? Bring you guys some more of that. OnlyFans, letting you see the slippery slope. But yeah, guys, let me know. It's your boy Learn. Peace.